so we know that our piece ended here, and this has 2. If you need to check, you can just see where it goes to. But this has 2, and we want 3. So all we have to do is we have to unhook this top part, and we're going to go right under there, hook it back on, and then put that top piece right back on. Okay, so now that's encompassed there. So now we need to get a band to go 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to, let's go this way so I can get better control of it. Hook that piece on there, put it back on, and then this is going to have to go over to this piece. So we'll get the top band there, put it on there, and we'll hook that piece again because it's got to go one more section. And this is where the 2 hooks come into play. And hook that one, put that on, and then hook that back up. It's that simple. I hope you saw that, and I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time with this piece, so you'll see. Get the top part, pull that down there, hook the top part down. Hook that top part, move it over here, get a hold of it. Hook that, put that one on, get loose, put that back on. Okay, so all we have to do is one more. And by doing it one at a time, then ultimately what you're doing is you're keeping in control of everything. Alright, get on there. There we go. Hook that back up. Hook that on there. There you go. So that piece has been spliced on. Now all we have to do is go up the side and attach these. And they're already on 2, so we just have to hook them onto 1. So I'm going to load this all up and then I'll get back with you. Okay guys, so I got that on, I got the cross pieces on, and I've put back each section of this that I have as far as to the point where we're going to splice it back into there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loom this all up. I'm going to loom everything up to that point, you know, just crossing over, just like the singles. And then once I get to that point up here, I'll show you how we're going to splice that back together. But I need everything up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this section done, and then I'm going to pull it up a little bit on the loom so it takes off some of the pressure. So it'll be easier to get here, because if I slip up with this and there's a lot of pressure under it, then it's going to pull all the bands loose. If I get this part loomed together and then I pull this off of the loom up to this point, then all the pressure's been taken off and it's just a couple pieces right there. So I'm going to get that all done and then I'll get back with you. Okay, so I got so into it that I didn't even pay attention that I forgot to turn the camera back on when I spliced it. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to get to your very end piece, okay? And once you have your end piece, you put your hook through it, and then you're going to remove the I can't focus very close with this camera. This is the problem. So once you remove it, so once you remove, you're going to put your hook on it. Then once you take off the green band that's holding it together, this one here, you're going to orient all of the cross pieces. So the very bottom piece should be that, which is your band. Then your cross pieces should be tied into it, and then, or the very bottom piece would be the piece that's going crossways. So the very bottom piece is that cross piece. Then you got this on top of that, you know, these two bands here on top of it. Then you take this band off, put your cross piece down, put this band back on, and then you loom up the rest of it, and then you go underneath here and you take your cross piece over. And that's how you splice that all together. Now, granted, you know, you're going to have to pay attention to what you're doing. This is not going to be easy. So if you're to this point, I have a feeling that you'll probably understand that aspect of tying it together. So if you have any questions or comments, of course, leave it down in the bottom. But otherwise, I'm going to keep going, and then I'll take this off the loom, and you'll see it here in a little bit. Okay, guys, so I'm showing you now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 5 looms together. And we're just doing singles, triple singles, one section at a time. But I wanted to get in here and show you that, you know, the way we've tied this together is, you know, we start the single down here based on the section that's tied off. You know, we take each section that's tied off and we put them on. I've showed you that. And then we look at what we have here. And right now, the bands that are coming off of here, well, not this side, but the ones that were coming off of this first section, had already encompassed 2 of the singles. So we took it and we looped it over the 1 pin. So that gave 3 rows of singles per that row. Then I stretched out another one on top of that, which encompassed these 3. And then I got 1 loop here to continue on to the next section. And when we continue on to the next section, we're going to put that down over the first 2, or over the side 2. And then we go down here, follow me down to here. You know, we've counted off how many we're going. And right now, I think we're at 40, so this is 42, 44, 46. So we're almost a quarter of the way. And we have all these bands on here to encompass the rest of them. But, you know, once we get everything loaded up, then we loom up each side, starting with the side closest to our work. Then we get up to this point, and then we take that one over to here. And then we go, when we start down here, we come up this way, we get to that one, we take it over to there, and then we finish up with the far end. And then we put our stopping band, our slip knot band over here, then we pull it all off the loom. So let me pull it off and I'll show you. But just let me explain that I've started down here and I did a section, and then what I do is I unhook it going backwards, and I do it 1 piece at a time. And what I do is I just fold this over, I get my hook up underneath of here, and I pull it off. So if you look under here, you can see, you know, it's hard to get it lined up here because this won't stay there. But what you do is you hook up underneath of there and you pull that stuff off like that. And you do it very gently, just by hooking that under there, because of the fact that you don't want to break anything. You know, we've got so many rubber bands in this piece, and to have one break now would just be absolutely catastrophic. Especially along this. Could we fix it? Yeah, but, you know, we have so many hours into this project right now, it's crazy to mess it up. So, literally, you're just taking it off one at a time. So, let me get this off the loom, and then I'll show you where we're at. Okay, so, here's where we're at so far. Right here's the middle of the hat. And we've gotten this section done right here. You see how big it is. There's our band. I actually got one little mess up spot right here. And good thing it's still holding together, but somehow I managed to get that band twisted and brought over to the other side. So that's probably going to drive me nuts, just because I've done so much without messing up. But hey, you know, it happens. That's the price you pay when you do a job this big. And I'm sure as heck not going to tear this all out just so I can fix that one little spot. So we're going to keep going, and it's going to take many more hours. We probably have about 30 hours into this project already, and we still got a ways to go. So, you guys, I've showed you how to do it. You know, this side here, since we attached on that one end, so these pieces will go once we loom everything back up and get everything to the right size. So the next thing we're going to load up is we're going to load up 46. So we'll have 46 sections of that we're going to tie onto here. And then the next one to that will be 48 and then 50. But we're going to have to add additional looms and then tie into things another way. But it'll be interesting when we get to that point. But remember that when we tie it back on, we'll do a little bit. You know, we'll do about this much of it. Then we'll peel it off backwards and continue on. That way we can stretch it out really far without breaking anything. So I will get back with you. And we'll see where we're at from that point. Okay, so I just want to go over with you real quick. You know, we've spliced this all together. Get turned around here. So what we've done is I've looped through, you know, my 3 bands, and I've got them put back on the loom like you do with the glove. Let's see. And then once I put those 3 on, I lift up the top of the first one because we have to put this section back on. So if you look at this section, we already have 2 bands in the loop. And remember, we have 3 bands in each loom, or each section. So there's 3 singles per loop. So we need to add 1 more. So that loop's going to go back onto these pegs. Okay? And then what we're going to do down here is we pick up the top loop, put that band on, then put the top loop down. So when you're talking about these, you know, when you get to the end of your single, you have, you know, there's the top loop holding it together, and then the loop on the underside. Because remember, you fold it over like a taco. So if you think of it like a taco, you got one side of the taco on the bottom, then you're going to put that loop in between, the side loop in between the taco, and then the top of the taco on top of it. So you'll have it in the middle. So bottom, top, and then the pieces go in the middle. And then that's how you're going to tie it forward. But remember, you put the bands down first. So the very bottom will be the band that's already there. Then you put this on top of that band. Pull the top part off of this, like the taco, like you're pulling that up. You put the side band over here in between, and then you sandwich it back down on top of it. Just like that. And that's how you get started on these. What you'll determine on the side is if the band that you have sticking out has 1 in it, then you need to go to 2. If you have 2 in it, you only need to go to 1. And then you'll add over. And then since we're going 3 across, we need to add 1 here for when we tie into this side. And when we tie into that side, we have this 1 band that's already here. So when we tie onto that later, we're going to take it onto 2 pegs. Just like that. And then we do that all the way up. All the way up here. All the way up to my tools and my mess and my TV. So there you go. You definitely need a long table. That's 6 looms back to back. And for the last section, I have actually ran out of looms. I have 1 more section to go. If I had 7 looms, I would do it. But I do not have 7 looms, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this all the way up. And then where I would get to the end piece, I'm actually going to take the loom off of the back, off of this side, move it to that side, and finish it up before. Now, because this gets so tight, what I do is I work little pieces at a time. So here I have about 8 or 9 pieces done. Might do a couple more. And then when I'm going to go ahead and, you know, loom those over, and then take it off of the loom to a certain point. I usually leave 3 or 4 attached. And then I pull the rest of them off, and that takes off some of the pressure on this, so you can work little pieces at a time. So you do 10, you know, you take off 5. You do 10 more, you take off 10, you know, so on and so forth. So you're keeping the pressure off of this piece here so you don't break anything. But the way I pull it off is I do one peg at a time, and I take the hook and I go up underneath and I pull everything off of the back with the hook. So I pull this over and then I pull the hook up. You know, I use the hook to pull it off instead of pulling the bands off. So that way it stops you from breaking your rubber bands. Alright, so I'll show you that in a little bit and I'll get back with you. Okay, so, you know, it's going to be kind of hard to show you this and do it at the same time, but basically, you're going to take your hook and you're going to hook it into the groove on the back, and then you're just going to pull everything up and off. Just like that. It's kind of hard to do because I don't have anywhere to mount the camera here, but that's what I do. And I pull everything off backwards. Okay. And then just slowly work that up that way as you go along. Alright, I'll get back with you. Okay, so now when you get to the end, remember the end's staggered. So when you get to this point, you're going to go over so, you know, you're going to start on the small end, finish the small end. When you get to the crossover, you take it over to there. Then you finish up that middle end. Then when you get to that crossover, you take it over there, and then you finish that end. So that way, this band's getting tied into this band's getting tied into that. And that way you don't have to put any of these other splicing bands in. So these cross pieces that you see here are what I'm going to sew it together with later on down the road. So remember to leave some bands on this side too. Remember, you want each one to incorporate 3, but you want one on the inside so you can tie it off later on. So I'll get back with you. Okay guys, here's where we are so far. We've made it to the middle, which is, you know, it's marked by this longer piece here. Now, in order to make it where we don't have to tie a bunch of stuff together, because right now this side over here is only being tied together by this one band right up here. Okay, so you take out that one band, the whole side falls apart. So, don't take that band out. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start on the other side and we're going to work our way in. With this section in the middle being the last section that we're going to do. And we're going to do that by, you know, once we get this side built over here, then we're going to take those 3 pieces, put them on the loom, and then we're going to take the bands on this side and the bands on this side and overlap them and go all the way up and build it all the way up just like that. So we won't need any pieces in the middle to add. And of course you see this is another pile. This is our, I don't know, 6th, 7th, 8th bag of red rubber bands. We are 5,400 rubber bands into it so far. This is 5,400. So there's about 5,000 in what we've done so far. We have to finish the end. So we're probably going to be looking at about, I don't know, close to 10,000 rubber bands. But it's getting there. We're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there. So stick with us, guys. I know it's a long video, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Talk to you soon. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone up to 54. And then we got 55, 56, 57, 58. So 58 is where we're going to start. And then we're going to go down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. So your 54th, now what you ended on the other piece was 52, which you're going to tie that into there. And then what you do is you just build all the way down. Remember, you're building away from yourself with the arrows pointing that way. So you're going to fill those all in, and then when you loom it back up, you're going to be coming this way. When you get to this point, what you need to do is you need to do this piece first, because it's going to flip over onto this peg. And then you'll finish this piece up, and then you'll get to there, and that goes over to here, and then you'll finish running that piece up to end it off. So when I get to that point, I'll show you how it goes. But other than that, it's just continuing to loom it up, one over top of the other, just like you did on the glove. So I'll get back with you. Okay, so basically, you're going to loom everything up until you get to this point, and we do it a little bit at a time. But once you get to the point where you turn, you're going to pull this one over to this side, and that finishes that side. And then at that point, you can take this one up to here, go past that one, So you finish looming that side, and then you reach in here and you get this next one that goes over here. And then once you finish that one, you come back and you finish off this row. Because you want this top row to lock down your turn or your angle. And then you finish up. And what you see on these cross braces, you know, these cross beams, is everything represents, or everything will hold 3. So we leave one loop on the outside at all times, and that's for when we tie one side into the other, when we tie the two sides together in the very back. So always leave one spare loop. So this loop here is containing 2, and since the pattern going up leaves one on this side to loom onto the next, you continue with that pattern. So right here, I have this one outside going across these 3, and then I have one going across 2. So the one that's on the 2 is going to be on this side to add more 2. The ones on the outside are what we're going to stitch it together with later on down when we get to that point. And then what I do, which I haven't showed you here, is because there's so much force, you know, I do, you know, 7 to 10 rows, and then what I do is I pull it off backwards. And I use the hook to get in here, hook underneath of everything, and pull it out so you're not stretching the bands. That way you don't break them. Because I'm telling you what, I've had many a times where I've missed or slipped, or a rubber band is shot off the hook, and I've had to rebuild big sections in here, and it is not fun. So make sure you work very smart when you're doing this. And then just slowly, you know, pull it off the loom. Uh-oh. See, look, I missed one there. So I got to go back there and find out what's going on. So I'll get back with you. Hang tight. Okay, so somewhere along the line, I think actually when I was doing this video, I just kind of messed up and didn't put the top piece back on. So what happened is this whole section right here blew out. So I saw it, I stopped it, I put a band on it to stop it from going any further. I banded up the end here to stop it from going any further. So now, what do I do to fix this? Well, now I have to bring this back onto the loom. Let me get this extra piece off of here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything back on the loom up until the point of the mistake. So let's see, we go under, oh, sorry, camera fell over. Alright, so we need to look at how everything is on the loom. Okay. Okay, so let me get the camera out of the way, and as you see, I'm looming this all back up. So, now let's see. Might be able to watch it from there. I got a few more sections to go. Yeah, so I get this section back on. Over there, over these. Okay, so let's pull this through here. Okay, so now let's put this back on. Pieces that popped off. I'm hoping y'all can still see that. Make sure. Yep. Okay. So we'll wrap this around here. So we have this over one. And it's got to go over this one also. And I have two of them here. And that one's there. That one's there. I'm just making sure I got all my pieces. Honestly, guys, I don't know what on earth happened here. So there's one. Alright, so what I need to do, I need to undo this. There we go again. Alright, let me get this all set up and I'll get back with you. Okay guys, so I've got to the last section in the middle. and it actually works out quite well because I got 3, it's going to be a triple, and I got room for 1 more here and 2 more here, so that'll make up for the 3. Now, something interesting that I did find out, and don't ask me how this happened because I thought I was going in order, but I ended up only having 78 here and 82 on this side. So basically, the 82 is where it's going to end because we're going in 2s, so we got 78, 80, 82. So this 82nd piece right here, we'll have one right beside of it, and we'll tie those 2 together, and that will finish this off. So basically, I'm going to build this one as if I was continuing to go forward. And then we'll just tie it right into that one, and we'll be done with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my 6 looms together. I got them in 3s right now, but I'll put my 6 looms together, and then I'll put these over top of it and just fish them back and forth, weave it on up. The piece on this side, now what I'm ultimately going to have to do is, because I can only go 78 long with 6 looms, that's 78 pegs. So what I've done is after as I build, I'm removing it from the looms and freeing up the ones in the back. So ultimately what I'll do is I'll just load up every single loom straight down, and then once I pull that off, I'll put it on this end. I'll take it off of this side, put it on this end, and then I'll create the 78 to 82 part by, tapering up, and then we'll put that section on there. But I'll show you that when I get to that point. Right now, I'm just going to take all 6 looms, put them in one big line, and start with the arrows pointing away, and go all the way down each row with the rubber bands. So I'll get back with you shortly. Okay. So I'm finally doing the middle stitch, and basically, I've put it on the loom, just like before, and we're stitching up, but, I wasn't thinking, I have 1 on this side and I have 2 on this side, so they don't connect in the middle. If we had 2 on each side, then they would connect and we would need an extra band. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the 1 over here, then I'm putting the 2 here, and I'm stretching 1 all the way across all 3. So then that covers all 3 bands that are going in. And it keeps it all tied together. So depending on how many you end up with when you get to the middle, you're going to have to determine that. If you have, 1 band containing this cross beam, so you have enough for 2 left, and 2 left on this side, then you put, 2 and 2, and then they'll be together in the middle. But since we have 2 on this side and 1 on this side, then we're going to have to tie everything together with a 3rd band. And you can see here where I've tied that one together. And we're going to tie this one together. And here. And I'm now to the point where I'm only working 5 at a time, because there's quite a bit of stretch in it. So I'm only working on 5 sections at a time, and then I'll loop it all, and then I'll take off 5, and then I'll build 5 more, and then I'll take off 5. And I always have a protection of 4. So when I take them off the loom, I always leave 4 still attached. And that kind of gives me a buffer so it doesn't come off of the loom accidentally. If I accidentally pull 1 off, I still got 3 holding it. So that's what I've been doing, is leave 4, take off up to 4, whatever you have left past 4. Remember, don't stretch it to the point where it breaks. So we're just working 5 at a time. You've come this far on this project. I've got 50 hours into this thing. There's no sense in rushing it now. So use your patience, get it done, so you can benefit from actually wearing it. So I'm going to do this centerpiece, and then I'll get back with you as far as stitching it all together. Hey guys, so I got all the pieces together. This is how it looks here. Everything's together, and now we need to focus on stitching the outside together, like this. And we're going to do this the same way we did the glove. So what I'm going to do is, most of these have 2, so we only need 1 piece of loom. So what you do is you take a piece of loom and you start with 1 ring on the beginning. You know, you build it like you're building it away from you, just like that. You put 1 loop on, because then as you build, this piece, this little loop that you got hanging here, is going to flip over the end of the next one. So when you get to that point, you just flip it right over, continue on, take that end loop, flip it over. So, the way you load these is you load them away from you, but the very first one, you just leave that little loop hanging right there. And then you load them away from you, arrows pointing away, because when you're going to put them on here, you're going to flip it around and then go that way. And then when you get to this end one, you're going to take that one and hook it right over the top of the next one. And then continue on and do the same thing there as you work your way up to the top. And then we're going to tie into that, we're going to tie into that glow in the dark there. That's what's holding it all together. If that comes out, this entire thing comes apart. So, pretty scary stuff. So, and you know, if you watch the glove video, you know exactly how to do this. You just wrap the pieces around. I'm going to get it together and I'll get back with you here shortly. Okay, so that's how we're stitching it together. You know, I've already done that piece, took that section out, added this section to it, and we're just continuing on, putting 1 loop over each side, and then taking it up, going, you know, 3 or 4 pieces at a time, then taking some more loops, putting them on, a couple more pieces, some more loops, some more pieces. Then when we get to this end piece over here, we attach it to the next section of loom, and then just continue on till we get to the end. So I'll get back with you here shortly. You can see that, how it's down together here. This is ultimately going to be C-clipped together. I'll probably run the C-clip through those also, just to give them a backup. Maybe C-clip that bunch there together just for added protection so it doesn't pull apart there, because that looks like a little bit of a weak spot. So I'll get that doubled up a little bit. You may, once you watch the video, go ahead and double your bands right there so it doesn't pull apart. But, you know, the main meat of it's right there on that triple starburst. So I'm going to get going with this, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, guys, so this is the last section that we're doing, and this is actually to make the ball on the top. And I showed you in an earlier video. I'm not going to use the one that has the lights in it, just because, you know, if I do it, I'll do it after the fact. But the cord isn't long enough, and I don't want to splice another cord in and deal with all that mess. So we're just going without it, because these are glow in the dark, so you'll get light from that. But, you know, we made this just, you can do it side by side, but this just exaggerates this section here. So what I've done is I've taken the loom, and I've put my 6 looms together, 3 on each side, but I have the U's, you know, the U part facing inward. So if you, from the center point, the arrows are actually pointing towards the middle, okay? And you imagine that that's going to sit right there, and this shell is going to be built around this ball, okay? So I have doubled up all of the bands that are going out across. So again, you build, just like you're, you know, looming, you point the arrows away from you, you build it in towards the middle. Then once you've built those, these are double bands on these pieces. Around this middle, I have 6 bands wrapped around these 6 pegs. And then there's 3 bands going around these 6 pegs, 3 bands going around this 6 peg. I want this to pull in really tight. And then coming out from this, these are all singles. And each single encompasses 3, so it's basically like a double, triple, single. So here's your double bands here. 1, 2 bands there. Then your 3, 3, 3, and 3. There's 3 bands here, 3 bands here, and I think I got 6 bands in the center. And that's going to pull everything in real tight into the center, which will be the top of the cap here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loom this all out, and then I'm going to take it off, and then I'm going to hold it up. And then once I hold it together, I'm going to see where I can stitch it together and then remove some of these bands here. So I'll get back with you. Alright guys, so here's what it looks like when you take it off the loom. It's got those bands holding everything in the middle. And there's the big round section of bands there. You know, I would go as far as to say is maybe instead of using the 3 bands here, go ahead and beef it up to the 4 or 6 or however many I got there. But it's all going to work out the same, because what we're going to do now is we're going to fold it into half, and I'm going to take the cross pieces, the singles, and I'm going to re-loom those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my loom, I'm going to put down a section of doubles like I did before, and then I'm going to put this back on the loom and run those doubles down. So in essence, I'm going to be closing the sides. You know, I'm going to be sealing off the sides, closing them together, and then what we'll ultimately do is we'll push the ball down into the middle in here. So it's going to make like a pouch, like that. We'll push the styrofoam ball down into the middle and get it all tied around it. So I'll get back with you when I got it all set up. Okay guys, so if you see how I'm putting it together, I loaded up my bar with doubles. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking the end of each piece. You know, this is the single that tied it together, that single that goes across the 3. And I'm pulling each side over top. You know, I started out with the bottom piece, put it on, then the next one. And then you got to make sure you're pulling the right one out of there and wrapping it. You know, it goes in between those. And then you get one section pulled up, and then you pull the loop over. And then once you pull the loop over, then you take one section off. And then you do the next one and the next one and so on and so forth till you tie it together and then cap it off here with the band. So I'll do that and I'll get back with you. Okay, just wanted to show you real quick. Now we're going to show you how to attach the ball. So what you do is you're actually going to turn the hat inside out, but figure about where you want it, and basically you're just going to tie it on. So you need to kind of roll this inside out. And what I did is I used the hook, let's see, and just kind of push this up in here. It's kind of hard to get it to go there now because of the fact that I got it in there. Just kind of push it up in there. And then all I did was I took the hook and I reached it through and I pulled pieces of the pieces that were tied around the ball. I just pulled them in there and just tied them in a knot. And if you need to, you can just put, you know, put extra bands and slip knots to make them longer and then slide them through. And just get them up there as close as you can to the end, and then that's how you tie it on. Just like that. Just put them in there and tie it in a knot. And then your hat's done. Alright guys, I'm going to get this posted for part 2, and then I'll get back with you on the next project. Thanks for watching guys, and thanks for all your support. It's been great.